Hi, I'm Mike, the bearded bimbler, and this is my adventures. So come with me as we run, walk, crawl and cycle across the many and varied landscapes of the UK. Well, good morning everybody. It is Friday, the 10th of February, and I am in Premier Inn in, or just outside of Tewkesbury. So it'll be quite nice actually. The entirety of the distance is only about 20 miles, so from here to Pershore the walk is about only 20 miles, so it's not far at all, so I'm not under any kind of massive pressure to get going or anything like that. I think the only concern is trying to find somewhere to camp tonight, and I've had a look, tried to identify a few spots on the old OS maps and Google Earth. I'm going to get on, frosty start, it's not due to be frosty tomorrow, it's going to be some cloud tonight, so it's probably not going to be as cold. I think it's due to be around -1, or it feels like -1 tonight. So yeah, I'll catch you on the trail. So we're just walking through into Tewkesbury town now, just off the bus. And there's this thing here where all the doors, a lot of the doors seem to be painted. They're very nice. And here is Tewkesbury Cathedral. It's absolutely huge inside, and I'll put some photographs up on the blog, and it would have been even bigger looking at the kind of structure on the grounds outside here. Sort of the original parts of the building date from about the 11th century, so very much a Norman thing. And I mean, it's absolutely ginormous considering that Tewkesbury is such a small place. You know, it's not a big city or anything like that, but this abbey is absolutely ginormous. And when you go inside it and you look at the pictures when I upload them, you see how absolutely vast it is inside, and there's so many crypts and burial effigies and all sorts of stuff in there. I mean, there is a lot of money went into this when they first built it. A lot of history as well, absolutely loads of history, loads of well-known people buried in there. Yeah, it's fantastic. A little bit of a notice board about this is kind of part of the battlefield trail of Tewkesbury, and the reason that it's so kind of important is that this is literally where the English Civil War ended. So as you can see there, like the Lancastrian cause ended on the 4th of May 1471, and people sought refuge at Tewkesbury in the abbey, but they were all rounded up basically, and the ringleaders were tried and executed for treason. So yeah, all this kind of area here on the outskirts of Tewkesbury is just literally part of the battlefield, and this is also part of the Severn Way. Ever free. So take a left now, off of this road, follow the path down with the battlefield trail through a rather lovely little woodland, and I'm going to come to something quite important in a minute, and I think this is it. I might be wrong, but this is literally where the English Civil War ended. So 1471, you had all the Lancastrians sort of routing and struggling, and this is actually called Bloody Meadow, which is a rather delightful name, but basically in 1471 two opposing forces met here. One of the Lancastrians were kind of, I think it was, were routed, they lost, they started to disengage and run away, and they were basically followed and killed. Forever free. over there is Gubbs Hill Manor, Margaret's camp. So quite bizarrely, it's one of them places which is right in the middle of a kind of, it's just at the side of the Gloucester Road, and then all around it is basically a housing estate. So people perhaps would think it's quite an inconsequential place, in that it doesn't mean anything, it's just lumps and bumps and so on here. But this is where where Queen Margaret would have, and the rest of the army would have kind of waited and prepared for battle, because over there is sort of the battle site, and Tewkesbury's roughly there. So they would have camped here, and this would have been their main camp. As you can see, there is some ditches and banks here to head back pretty much the way we came now, head into town, and go and find some scran. I'm just passing under what would have been another old line, I'm assuming, because over to the right, over that way, there is another old dismantled railway which would have kind of connected Ashchurch. So I think this would have connected Ashchurch as well at some point to Tewkesbury. So yeah, we're going to head down and around onto this footpath now, through some nice little countryside. I think I'm gonna have to put my jacket back on because the temperature's like there's no sun now, as there was before. It was lovely and warm, and now it's kind of going a bit dark. So everybody, obstacle of the day, a large fallen willow tree. It's not very easy when you've got a big backpack on it to try and navigate your way around this sort of stuff. So I think the best idea is to somehow come through, oh god, come through all of this here. Oh. To get to a point, and then just kind of like shuffle them over. Oh, there we go. Simple. So folks, we're just going to go, that is the M5. It's very busy, and I think this is still the Mill Haven. It actually seems to run for quite some distance really, which is quite nice. So I think we're going to go kind of this way, so join me on the other side. So folks, just on the other side of the M5 now. Fairly easy crossing, come over that bridge at the top there. I mean, that road itself is extremely busy, and there isn't really a footpath all the way along it, but that's what it is. And then trying to get onto this footpath here, it's all full of brambles and thorns, which at the moment is okay. You just get caught a little bit, but I imagine in full summer it's extremely hard going, trying to get through it all. And I come across this and I thought it was a bench from the distance, but it's actually a stile. And I think it kind of goes across and into the churchyard. So yeah, it looked like a bench from the start over there, but it's actually a stile. Very nice. We're coming into Kemerton Lake Nature Reserve. So that wasn't actually Kemerton back there, that was Kinsham. And now we have to try and find our way through the exceptionally long paths. Ah, shame. I was really looking forward to going for a swim in the freezing cold water today. Oh well, I'll have to put that off, folks. You can't see me in my grundies. Over there is Kemerton Lake, and I just stopped for a very brief moment, had a sit down in one of the bird hides, ate a Cornish pasty, which was delightful, and then had a bit of water, and I'm going to head into Kemerton now. There's a cafe there, so that means that I will have to sample their local cake, obviously for purposes of you guys watching this, to make sure it's safe to eat and whatnot. But the interesting thing about Kemerton Lake I was reading is that they believe that they've done archaeological digs down there, and they've found sort of Bronze Age settlements. So I believe that in the winter seasons they would have maybe stayed down there with their cattle. Summer seasons they would have got up onto Breeden Hill, which is quite interesting really. But they have the two things. But I do know that there's other settlements dotted around here, Roman, Iron Age as well. So it's quite an interesting little area. But what I did notice about the lake, is, apart from its bird life, is the fact that I'm sure it's full of freshwater mussels. Now I've never seen freshwater mussels. I've seen mussels, and these were huge. So I've just had a lovely cup of tea and some cake at Kemerton Coffee, little coffee shop in Kemerton, and now I'm heading towards Bell's Castle now. You know how much I love a hill, guys. This is the hill coming up from Kemerton. Oh God. This building on the left here is what's known locally as Bell's Castle. So in about 1815 there used to be workers' cottages here, and then supposedly a man called Edmund Bell purchased the cottages, knocked them all down, and then literally built this fake castle with these medieval buttresses and walls and stuff. It's a bit bizarre. You know, that there's a massive buttressed wall there, but that's obviously a large retaining wall to keep in the grounds here. Now the interesting thing about Bell's Castle is supposedly Edmund Bell was a captain of a ship, or self-declared captain admiral of the ship, and he was some kind of buccaneer during the Napoleonic Wars, and fought on the side of the crown. Now that wasn't uncommon. That used to happen a lot. You know, that people would go off and work for the crown as sort of semi-pirates, I suppose. But after the Napoleonic Wars, he supposedly carried on, and this is where his fortune come from, to build this giant bloody house here on the top of the hill overlooking Kemerton. Now, people have said that there's treasure buried in the cellars and things. The only problem I have with this whole story is Edmund Bell doesn't seem to have actually existed. So Edmund Bell only exists in more recent newspapers about people selling the house and the legends behind it. Now, I've had a look. There is no person called Edmund Bell that ever owned a ship during the Napoleonic Wars. There's no Edmund Bell that ever fought on the side of the crown during the Napoleonic Wars. There's no Edmund Bell that was ever arrested by the authorities and tried for treason, because there's no reports in the courts or the gaol or anything, or execution records about this chap. So I don't actually believe he existed in the format that people are saying he existed. How this place come to be about and how the name Edmund Bell come about, I don't know. I think there is one person that I found called Edmund Bell that lived in Ryde in the Isle of Wight. But other than that, that is about as much history on this place as possibly can now. Howdy doody everybody. We're not quite at the top of Kemerton Hill, because Kemerton Hill is behind us. But it just goes to show the view that's offered from this hill and why it was probably so important to people that come before us. Coming back up the northwest side of Breedon Hill now. We're just kind of having a look see. Well, we're going to go up to the Folly anyway. Have a look at that. Have a sit down. Have a drink. Have something to eat. There we are, folks. Just coming up onto Kemerton Camp, and I think that's Parsons Folly. So Parsons Folly is the kind of Victorian example of a middle-age crisis, I think they would call them. The guy wanted the hill to be 1,000 feet, so he built the Folly, and the hill is 1,000 feet. And it's basically like, look what I built. It's just literally a giant phallic symbol on top of the hill, like most of the follies that were built in the Victorian era. But yeah, more importantly, there's Kemerton Camp, which is the Iron Age fort, abandoned around about the 1st century AD, just as the Romans were invading England. Believed to have kind of had a war with another tribe, a neighbouring tribe, and they found sort of 50 massacred and mutilated bodies. So we have a just quick look over here. This here is called the Bamborough Stone, or the Elephant Stone. Oh, you alright guys? So I've had to wait. It's about nearly 5 o'clock now, which is when kind of roughly the sunset is due to happen in about 10 minutes. I'm kind of on one of the outer banks, or outer ditches rather, of the hill fort, which is kind of in this ditch here, which just keeps me out of the wind because it's extremely windy up there. Well, good morning everybody. It's hang on a minute, let's see if we can change it. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. I was going to get up at 4:30 anyway, try and catch the train from Pershore. So I thought I'd just get up there anyway and pack up. Bloody cold to start with last night. Best get packed up then, hadn't I? Well guys, it's not as if you can see a great deal. I've just had to come down this hill, which you can't really kind of get a decent kind of feel on how steep it is, but believe you me, it's bloody steep. It's come down that in the dark, which wasn't very easy at all. Morning. Right, so we are in Great Comberton now, and we're just kind of heading along the road towards, I mean Pershore's only 3 miles by the road, so I might do that. The only problem is obviously it's a very quiet back country lane and people speed, and obviously it's not going to get light, so we'll play it by ear. But yeah, not seen a soul yet, surprisingly. And it was interesting coming down off the hill from Breedon. That's for bloody sure. It's not very easy to navigate in the dark, but yeah, happy days. That's it. Just into the outskirts of Pershore now. And I know it really freaks some people out, kind of going places in the dark. people feel real fearful of it, and I get that. You know, myself, I really enjoy it. I always have done. I always enjoyed mucking around in the dark. I don't know, there's something a bit more clandestine and special about navigating and running in the dark and walking in the dark. It's great fun. Well, that's it folks, that is the end of this little bimble. Now we're at Pershore station. We've got about an hour to wait for the train, but it's the first train out that goes to where I need to go, so I have to just hang around here for an hour and do nothing. I've kind of dressed into some of the more appropriate smelling attire because the other stuff I had on stunk, so I doused myself in deodorant and put some clean tops on. Still got my old skaggy bottoms on, I might just leave them and not bother. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into a station with a cup of tea and bacon body or something, because I am famished, man. So catch you all on the next one, guys.